For those of you who don't know who this guy is, I will explain who he is. I wanted to talk about it before the whole Just situation, but with all the chaos, I had to pause. Now, this over here is a doctor. He was in the process of stitching a woman after childbirth, right after childbirth, and he was aggressively doing so. Now, in the process, the woman cries out for pain according to what was told. And what does he do? Instead of consoling her or giving her anesthetic, he decided to beat her brutally, right with her bleeding on the table and all that. Not just hitting her however he chose, he even hit her tits, which every pregnant woman knows the pain your breast goes through when you're giving birth. Now, I speak about this story because I realize that people have normalized women giving birth so much, they feel like it is our duty and our right as women to produce children, but we do not look at how difficult and mind-blowingly painful it actually is. We normalize it to the point that we're like, nah, it's not just to give birth, just go ahead. And I understand that men would never understand what it is. Even when we speak about periods, which we'll discuss that on a different day, they don't understand the gravity of what happens to your body in that moment. Now, men I can excuse because they don't know, but you should get yourself enlightened. But it's the women, it's the mother-in-laws that expect you to be cooking right after birth, to do a whole bunch of things, and they remind you of how, but they gave birth to 6 and 10 of them, so why are you complaining? When different women react differently. There's some women that could go into the hospital and pop a baby out without even feeling much, while there are others that literally pass away. There are so many risks. You lose your teeth, you lose your hair, you lose the depression that even comes after childbirth. There's so many things. The list goes on. Please, if you're a good man and you consider yourself a good man, you should be aware of these things, especially when you're dealing with a female. You don't have to feel a woman's headache or woman's pain for you to understand what her body goes through. Now, because my own birth story video is very graphic, I cannot post it. Somebody forgot to film my face and stayed on my, so I'm going to take you on a walk. For those who know, I have already posted this story on my YouTube years ago, but we're going to go back into my childbirth. And also, I'm going to show you a little clip of what it actually feels for a woman to get cut down there during childbirth. Now, on this beautiful, magical day, I went with my partner to the hospital because it was the last checkup. The doctor did what he was supposed to do, and then he said, you might give birth today or you might give birth in a few days, but it wouldn't be up to a week. So we left the hospital. On going home, he decided he wants to go and relax and chill, and I said we needed things for the house, but he said he wants to rest. So I go by myself with my big belly to the store. I carry 2 heavy bags, and I remember on this particular instant, a woman saw me and says, are you trying to kill your unborn child? But at this point, and I was getting uncomfortable, But what was the choice I had? My partner wanted to go and chill while I had to prepare food for him. I do all that. I get home. I start cooking. I remember I made curry chicken that day. He decides in the evening that, you know what? He wants to go to the club. And I said, are you really going to risk going to the club? What if the baby comes tonight? He said, there's no way the baby is going to come tonight. And he wants to go and party with his friends. Not just that he went to the club. He went to an underground club where there's no cell service at all. Around 11-ish, 11:30, I start to feel intense pain. When I say intense, I felt like something wanted to burst out of me. But I was confused because I had previously had those Braxton Hicks pains, so I was a bit skeptical. Till the pain started getting 10 minutes apart or something like that. I struggled to call him for so long. It did not work. But finally, I got in contact with his friend who pulled him out the club. Now, when he came, I was sweating so much. I was crouched on the ground like a fetal. And I was like, you know what? I need to take a quick shower so we can head out. And of course, he had to give me this whole story of how, you must really not be in pain because you want a shower. I just did not want to give birth to my baby dirty. And mind you, on the way to the hospital, he popped my head of how I better not go in there and embarrass him because I should remember that we are black. So I cannot go in there and start screaming loud. So I should just suck in the pain. We get to the hospital, we do everything. I get on the table. I need to rush through this video because I don't want to do a part 2. It's time to start pushing. First of all, after spending even hours in the toilet, and the nurses were scared that I would give birth in the toilet, which I found weird, we get on the table. Now the doctor tells me, scream if you need to scream, do whatever you need to do, but push when it's time to push. I'm on the other hand, that's all I did. I was too afraid to scream because I did not want to embarrass my partner. My mother was on my side looking so scared in her face that looking at her, I stopped looking at her because I was worried. She looked like I was going to die and I didn't want to see that. At some point in the whole pushing process, I was dying. I can't explain this pain. It feels like somebody cuts through your stomach and there's something, not a human, a monster or something trying to come out of you. Mind you, different women feel pain differently. And I have a very, very intense high tolerance for pain. But this one was a pain I just can't even explain. It felt like an alien was coming out of me. At some point, the doctor realized this baby's head is too big, so we need to cut you. I can't remember if he injected me or not, but I'll show you guys a clip of what it looks like to be cut. So now as a man, after watching that, imagine, because you can't feel the pain, imagine if someone takes surgical scissors, and cuts you between your balls and your anus. Imagine that pain. And even if they give you anesthetic, which that woman did not receive, it still hurts equally. I can remember the sound. There was a cluck sound when it happened, and I felt like my eyeballs were rolling. Now they finally get that baby out of me, right? At this point, my body went into intense shock. I was shaking continuously. And one thing which is way worse than the pregnancy, than giving birth, is actually when they clean you up. Remember, they still have to bring out your placenta. So they go inside you with something that looks like a spoon and they scoop all the walls of your stomach. Imagine them scooping you when you're raw, bleeding, and you're cut. And then after they do that, they start stitching that cut they made. Imagine, you can feel every time that needle goes through your skin, you feel your skin, the pain. I cried more for them stitching me than I cried for giving birth. And the giving birth itself was hell. Now, mind you, you think you're tired. The nurses take away your baby after you've seen her. You think you're tired, but guess what? You can't sleep. For the next 2 hours, you have to continuously rub your uterus zone. Continuously for 2 hours. You're shaking, you have lost blood. You at this point, you're in no control of your body. And after that 2 hours, you want to sleep. But guess what? You can't sleep because the doctors tell you you must nurse. They bring your baby to you, and on your nipples that are extremely sore, and they feel like someone is plugged it with a needle and is pulling it, they tell you to let your baby latch. As your baby is latching, no milk is coming out, and now your boobies are blistered and sore. When I say blistered, with water inside, but still you can't complain. They say you must keep that baby there. So as your baby is latching, you're crying. You're crying in pain. And I tell you this only because I want you guys to understand what pain feels like. And mind you, you need to poop. They need to make sure your bowels and everything is moving right. So they tell you to go sit on the toilet. And at this point, your whole zone is inflamed, on fire, and burning because God, remember you got caught, And most men will tell you, go make me a plate of food after you give birth. They will tell you that, they cannot wait till they're intimates because they cannot wait. They're not thinking of you. Mind you, for the next 6 weeks, you're bleeding down there in chunks. And you can also feel as your organs are moving back into place. You feel one thing move, you have no idea what's going on. You feel like there's a hole in your stomach for the next few months. That's not even the worst part. 3 days after I got home, because my partner decided to go on an adventure and asked me to cook, he disappeared for hours and invited guests over. And when he came and I complained, you know what he did? He choked me and slapped me with the baby in my hand. He said I should not question him or where he was going. That's what happened to me 3 days after I got home. I think I knocked out while holding my child. I think the child was about to fall out my hand. And I don't blame anyone but myself because I stayed.